The Seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, here we go. Boise bus time. It is the Monday Club on a Tuesday. We've done this gig before on a Tuesday, haven't we? It is prone to happen, particularly, Jonathan, when there are busy weekends, eventful weekends that have maybe happened. That can sometimes lead to us just postponing, shall we say, the show by 24 hours. So thank you to each and everyone who are joining us on this Monday straight through Tuesday club, as it were. We have got lots to talk about. As always, Jonathan, pre-season training's re-begun. You're seeing the guys in the new sexy training kits. Danielle is getting her knickers in a bit of a twist over all these Matt O'Reilly pictures I'm seeing on Facebook, Jonathan. There's also imminent signings round the corner, Jonathan. Not one, but two, I reckon, are going to be here within the next 5-6 days. We're also, Jonathan, going to talk about League Cup sponsorship deals. How is the money at the bar so low? What other ways can Scottish football thrive and strive to bring in more revenue? And we will be looking at that through a Celtic prism, of course. Then also as well, we will be discussing the fact that the first televised game, speaking about revenue, the first televised or potential televised game for Celtic isn't actually being shown on the telly as the champions of Scotland go away from home, and all of us will be denied being able to watch that live on a TV. Obviously, there are other ways and means to watch it, Jonathan, but that ain't going back into football. They have got to get their heads together. We are going to be discussing all that tonight and probably a bit more as well. If anyone's got anything really pressing on their mind, we can do a wee bit of a improvised TNF or Tuesday night forum as well at the end if me and Jonathan run out of patter. Not that normally happens. Now, Jonathan, we were at Oasis on Sunday night by 1 a.m. and we still weren't home. You nearly had the new Gallagher brothers in town, I can assure you. We were at loggerheads debating whether to get a taxi, to get a McDonald's, to go for a haircut, to go to a rave. We didn't know what we were doing. It was a night of indecision. But Jonathan, what a night at Hampden Park it was.
Oh, absolutely. It was unbelievable. Courtesy of Liam Gallagher, we have had to move the Monday Club to a Tuesday Club because, my goodness, we were a wee bit lost. Let's just say we lost our bearings ever so slightly around Glasgow on Sunday night. One too many pints perhaps were indulged in in the stadium, and we may or may not have decided to wander off in the total wrong direction. All I remember was being told when we finally found the local task, oh, you're 4 miles away from the town centre, and then decisions had to be made, as you quite rightly say, but we managed to find a way. We found that McDonald's, we got fueled up on a Big Mac, got on a taxi along the road, and we are now back for the Monday/Tuesday club today.
You know it, mate. You know it. And it was a great night. It was a brilliant occasion. It was nice meeting, Jonathan, random bus passengers, mate, wasn't it? Because there were one or two that were, well, I say one or two, probably not that many. Like, it wasn't like I was fucking dishing out autographs, you know what I mean? But there was a lad, Ryan, and his missus that was chatting to for a good 20 minutes. He watches every bus show, Jonathan, so we better give him a shout out. There's a few other guys I met, and what we decided was that I don't even know them, but the smoking corner of the toilet, that was all good, because you can't go out the stadium. So there just was a section. It was like a mutual understanding between non-smokers and smokers that wee corner is the smokers bit. So I was in there, and I was surprised how many folk knew about the bus, and the bus survives again another week, Jonathan, of beans and toast. Thank you to Matt McIver, who's just kindly given a £5 super sticker. Thank you so much, mate. That will get us fuel for, I don't know, 5 minutes of Phil McGinley's Nostalgia trip tomorrow, which will be, bringing you Euro 2004, Jonathan. Don't know if you remember who won that. Could you guess?
I do vaguely remember who won that. That was Greece. That was held in Portugal, though. But Portugal got to the final. They played Greece in the first game, and then they played them in the last game. I think Greece might have beat them in both of them, from memory. And that'll be really exciting. That'll be a really good nostalgic trip. I'm pretty sure that's the same tournament that Portugal, go up against England, the infamous moment. Is that where Ronaldo does the links at the World Cup 2006? Can't remember. Sure, fellow keeper's all right on those points, but certainly what does happen in that is Ricardo takes his gloves off for the penalties. That's the only thing I remember about
Ricardo
that. Couldn't get close to saving a penalty that night, and then he takes his gloves off. As soon as he does it, saves the next one.
That's right.
Defining memory of that tournament. And
do you remember I know Phil's probably going, stop stealing the script, but when you bring up Ricardo, Jonathan, I am sure that was the Boa Vista goalkeeper in the UEFA Cup semi-final.
Wow.
Same keeper, mate. There you go.
You've been doing your research.
I knew that. No, I just knew that, mate. I just knew it. Greece Lightning says Phil McGinley in the comments. We are looking forward to driving off to Portugal tomorrow. Getting back from Japan and South Korea was a bit of a mission. I let Phil do most of the driving. I just snoozed in the passenger seat, mate. But we got back in time. Right, okay. Let's talk Celtic, Jonathan. It is what we do on the Monday Club. And we are looking forward, as I say, to all the shows this week. The TNF as well. I was going to say, new signing, Jonathan. Exclusively revealed. Conor McCann is now the third member, Jonathan, of the TNF.
Which is more than well deserved, by the way, after his MVP performance against those diddies from Endless Celts the other week on that return quiz. I thought for Conor McCann, our magnificent seven, we might have been in some serious hot water there. So yeah, very well deserved. Looking forward to seeing him and the one and only David Logue on Thursday. I'm sure that'll be a cracking addition, and certainly one to be tuning in for.
I know, definitely, mate. I think he's a brilliant addition for it. He can think on his feet, as he proved, Jonathan. You've got to think on your feet on the TNF with David Logue. And we will soon, as the season nears closer, be going to 7 days a week. 7 days a week of shows, guys. Unless it's the odd Monday like yesterday. Who cares? It's what we do. It's my bus. If I don't show up, I don't show up. That's just the way it goes, unfortunately. Right, Jonathan. On the Monday Club, I also want to just quickly say as well, please hit like, please share, please subscribe, and if you want to become a member, it's I'm coming through the telly, Jonathan. I need to get all that stuff out the way. I hate all that, Jonathan. But anyway, excitement is now growing. Would you agree? Because see, once you start seeing the players on the training ground, Jonathan, everyone's looking for, where's Jota? Where's Julian? You could ask. Obviously, the international players are having a wee bit of an extended break, so that was to be expected. Funnily enough, I did read an article that Maeda in Japan decided to train with his old club anyway, because he really doesn't stop. Genuinely,
That's his idea of a holiday, that. How many laps can I do? The bleep test. Brilliant.
A bleep test is indeed a day. That's a day's holiday for him, mate. We go on holiday at the Algarve. It's maybe a game of table tennis at a push and you've put your back out. He's doing a beep test on the beach. But genuinely, I think he was photographed training with his old club already. Like, that's what he's doing in his downtime. David Ferguson said it was Kyogo. Well, I hate to disagree with you, David, but it was Dazen Maeda that was in the photo. So I don't know, but it was definitely Maeda, mate. I promise you. And if Kyogo was doing the same at his club, then we're both right and we're both winners. Let's hope that's the case.
Over at his club as well in favour of David, but I don't know about running about training, but he certainly was over.
I've seen the photo of Maeda doing it, so I know what's happening. And he is a road runner, as the legend Monty says. Right, okay. There is a lot of passengers on the bus, which is great to have. But, Jonathan, I'm sure they're all as excited as us now, because when you start seeing the players on the training ground again, it doesn't matter how old you get, it does start giving you that fucking, the butterfly feeling. You start going, oh, here we go. And I've enjoyed the break. I'm not going to lie, it's been okay. We've struggled at times maybe for content, or we've not really though. But from the pod point of view, the more Celtic play, the easier it is for me just to go straight on and talk about it. But I support Celtic first and foremost, and then the BOYCE'S second. That is the honest truth. And I genuinely feel slightly emotionally drained at the end of a season. I think you get used to your stomach being knots twice a week. I'm not all that convinced that's good for you.
No.
I think sometimes you forget how all-consuming it is, and you forget what it is you're missing. I feel like the 6 weeks we've had off has been quite nice and relaxing, particularly when you do it from a place that the job got done last season. We won the league. Of course, that's really crucial. But now we're seeing the players back. We're seeing them mingling, training, a few light sessions. They've all got nice beach tans, Jonathan, as well. Showcasing the new sort of lime green training gear. A new coach beside Ange Postecoglou, and world-renowned Harry Kewell. I mean, this guy is absolute baller of a player in his day. Instantly recognisable. It's an exciting time, Jonathan. Initial reactions to anything that's occurred on the training ground, whether it be players missing or the new training kit, the new additions, just whatever, Jonathan, go for it.
Yeah, well, certainly the new training kit is certainly a nice one that catches the eye beautifully. I have to say they've done a very good job with that. Adidas, they don't tend to do too many bad tops from what we've seen so far from them. So that was very nice and very eye-catching. I think the most notable absentee, who I'm sure is already appearing in a lot of the comments by the passengers, is obviously Jota. The worst secret I feel over the summer is that, everyone's expecting him to become a Celtic player, and we all kind of were half expecting to just see him rolling up to training and Celtic doing some form of announcement today. It's almost been a question of when rather than if when it comes to Jota, and we are now beginning to wonder when that date is going to be coming. I think he's still in Portugal, I think I'd read at the moment, but wasn't reported in for training with Benfica either, so it still looks to me as if that deal will be done in the next few days. So that's one to look forward to. I think he was the one we're always looking out for at this point in the season. And it's always great and refreshing to see the players all back in for pre-season. You get a chance to have a wee look, see if any of them have put on a few pounds, but I think everyone was looking in pretty good condition. I don't think Mr. Postecoglou would allow people to fall out of favour, unlike what we've seen in previous seasons where players like Lee Griffiths have came back out of form and just have looked as if they've overindulged in the summer break. Whereas I think under Postecoglou, that's just not going to happen with this group of players. You're getting excited now because you're not too far away from, granted, it's not the most exciting of games, but they are friendlies. There are opportunities there for Celtic to start looking at their team. I think you're also going to be looking at, one or two other bodies coming in, as well. So I think it's all looking very positive from a Celtic point of view. And this season starts now. That's really what we're looking at in the grand scheme of things. And it is exciting, Russell. Is there anything you took away from that first training session?
Well, I don't know. I just think that, like, when you see the fact that Harry Kewell's there, I mean, I think someone's tried to make it in a meme that he says the hardest thing in football to do is play it simple. I don't think it's quite going to have the same effect as the We Never Stop from Ange, right? So I think they can put that to bed. Maybe it was a bit of
A
banter.
t-shirt next season, is it?
I don't know who shared it, but I'd seen it floating about Twitter, and I thought, I don't know, that one's going to catch on. But I was intrigued to see what sort of presence Kuhl's going to have, Jonathan, in the coaching regime, because by all accounts last year, what sort of happened was no one knew who the assistant was, and then the sort of murmurings were it was actually going to be McManus who seemed to be maybe the closest one to in the order of ranking, the order of merit, Jonathan, in coaching. It was probably Stephen McManus who was top of the tree. Then, of course, we've had the debate on the show. Was it a demotion? Is it because of respect that he's been put into this new role with the B side? Who knows? Was it because of disillusionment with what happened last season with the B team? Who knows? But what we do now have is a lieutenant that Ange has cherry-picked. I think that strengthens your hand. I think what Ange did last year, and we're not going to keep going on and on and on because Ange won't want us to either. He's wanting all eyes now on the new season. That's how he operates, you can tell. But I genuinely think the cool factor makes life easier for Ange. I don't want Postecoglou, Jonathan, trying to do the same thing that he did last year every year at Celtic and do it all on his own. Yes, I've had a bit of devilment with the theory that did Ange enjoy it? Was it meaning that he was always going to have a stronger hand this summer? I think that's all very well and good, but if it backfired spectacularly and he was out of job, say, for example, then he would have been going, well, that's bullshit, because and probably kicking himself a bit. They hadn't further strengthened, in the personnel around him. So I think it's really, really, obviously, Matt Lawwell, he wasn't on the training ground in the Adidas gear, Jonathan, but he was brought in earlier in the summer. And now we've got now the excitement of seeing how the two Aussies work together. And that might not be the end of it. Who knows? But I think it's very, very exciting that Kuhl, who's had 3 or 4 managerial jobs, Jonathan, rates Postecoglou that highly, rates not being a number one, but just getting to be at Celtic that highly. It's the guy who's won the Champions League with Liverpool, remember? Played Champions League semi-finals with Leeds and stuff, He's no mug of a player. Voted Australia's greatest ever, I believe, as well. So I think you take all that in. He's got a bit of a reputation, Jonathan, and maybe his managerial career's been checkered. I know a guy, Alfred Bridge. He was a former scout of Derby County, Nottingham Forest, who else? Coventry City. He scouted for all of them, but he's diehard Oldham. He's about 75 now. I know him just because you fucking meet folk online, Jonathan, playing Championship Manager, back in the day. I had the pleasure of his company a few times. So he was WhatsApping me when Kuhl was signed. And he said, actually, he did very well. He did very well at Oldham. His win record was brilliant. I think it was 41%.
Wow,
with a team that was in the relegation zone when they took over. But he said, I would expect him to be a bit of a harsher voice on the lads than what Ange will have been. He says, I think he will ruffle feathers. And I think, obviously, what I was explaining to Alf was, this is very much Ange's domain, though. Trust me, he won't be allowed free carte blanche, I don't think, to be like that. But maybe Ange just feels he's built up such a bond, Jonathan. Maybe it's good to have a wee tiger in there. Do you know what I mean? Who can good cop, bad cop. It's a tried and tested maneuver. Often it's the manager bad cop, but because Ange, I think, was spinning so many plates last year, Jonathan, he couldn't really afford to go all in on this newly assembled group, even if he was raging at them too often, because he needed them on side because he literally had no one else. If he didn't get the buy-in from the players, Jonathan, he had no one else to buy in around him. He was on his own. I think this time round, it might actually be quite intriguing to see how this young group of players react to maybe someone like a Kuhl being more of that old school in terms of delivery, but I'm sure his coaching expertise will still be of a very much a 2022 standard, no dinosaur. But I wonder if his rhetoric to the players, Jonathan, might be a wee bit more, a wee bit more challenging for them to accept, and more of a sink or swim attitude. You know, take it or leave it. You know, I think that could be quite good for Postecoglou to have that, particularly as the gauntlet that has been laid for Celtic this season is of a higher bar than what it was last season.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it does help, you know, if you've got somebody else in. Finally, Postecoglou's getting one of his own staff members, which we've obviously discussed on numerous occasions over the last 12 months, that it seemed bizarre to me anyway, that Postecoglou wasn't able, or whatever what the reasoning was, there was just no movement on him bringing a coach in, when it just seemed that was a logical thing when he's just moved halfway across the world to not then be bringing in at least one member of staff with him who knows how he likes to set up and how he likes to do things. I thought was extremely ballsy from Postecoglou, and it's probably another one of the many reasons why so many of the fans bought into him, because he just decided he was going to take on the world on his own. And it was an unbelievable thing to actually have done. And when you look back on it, it just makes last season's success all the more impressive when you're looking at what Postecoglou achieved. Having said that, I think you're right. I think he does need somebody there that is going to be able to pull the players up a wee bit more. I think Postecoglou's now got that bit more of a rapport with them. I don't think it would really work as much if he was ever there to turn around and go too much off his head with them. You know, even if they had a stinking performance and lost by a few goals in a league game or something like that. You know, I don't think Postecoglou's the type of manager now, given what's happened in this first season, where the players would really buy into it as much if he lost the plot with them. Whereas I think if you had somebody like Kuehl, who can then pull them aside and just like, no, that was unacceptable, and really pull them up, or if it's an individual performance or whether it's a team performance, I think Harry Kuehl gives you that different option there, that he can do that. And the thing is with Kuehl, even if he's doing that in a position where, you know, okay, he's having a wee bit of a go at the players, he's got that reputation behind him where the players, you know, he'll have that respect from the players because of what he's done in the game. You know, it's not like what would have been last season, Postecoglou coming in. If he tried to do that, when, with the greatest respect, a lot of the players wouldn't have known much any more about him than we did, to be fair. And a lot of us were pretty sceptical, to be perfectly honest, as to whether or not he was going to be a good appointment. And you'd look at what he'd done across the world, and you wouldn't have been looking at it and thinking, okay, it's fair enough CV, but it wouldn't command respect just purely because he hadn't achieved an awful lot in the European game up until this point last season. So it's an interesting one bringing Kuehl in from that point of view, and I think Harry Kuehl, as I say, will instantly command the respect of the players rather than having to worry about, you know, winning them over or anything like that, which means he can be a wee bit tougher on them than what Postecoglou can be. It'll be interesting to see exactly what sort of role and everything else he ends up taking on as well with Kuehl, and whereabouts he fits into the coaching setup that, you know, Postecoglou seemed fairly happy with last year, and he made sure everyone, you know, felt a part of it and everyone bought into it last year as well. And it does actually have me wondering a wee bit if it's possibly the thought process is that, you know, the likes of either John Kennedy or Strachan may end up deciding to have a go at management themselves, and this is already Postecoglou pre-planning for that, which, you know, wouldn't be the first time he's done that already since he's taken the job. You just have to look back to January. You think Matt O'Reilly was brought in, and if you're telling me Matt O'Reilly, who's pretty much identical to Tom Rogic, the Postecoglou, in every way, in every single way, he's even probably better looking than him, which is ridiculous. But you know, you look at somebody like Matt O'Reilly that's been brought in. And if you want to tell me Postecoglou wasn't aware when he's brought Matt O'Reilly and Tom Rogic's leaving in the summer, I don't think you've been paying attention. And it would be interesting. It would be interesting because I think with Kuehl coming in, I think Postecoglou may be thinking one of those two might be for the offer, might have even sounded him out and said, look, if something comes up, I'm actually going to take it, and you might need to start thinking about this. And I'd probably lean in more towards possibly John Kennedy. I think Kennedy would probably need to go and manage if his aspirations are to become a top-level manager. I think he's better getting out the club now and trying something different. But it would be interesting to see exactly where that goes. And was that something you could see possibly happening? Is it a case that you think Kuehl coming in is more of a situation where he's doing that to strengthen what he already has, or is that a bit more of the forward planning from Postecoglou, where he's perhaps already thinking one step ahead that one of his already coaching staff may well choose to leave?
I'm convinced that it's more strengthening the department, Jonathan, particularly when you're talking about players, some of these non-players, Strachan, Kennedy, McManus seem to be sort of main three lieutenants. Of course, Stevie Wood's still there. But I think McManus has already exited the first team door. So you had to have a replacement in. So I think it's more, you had to have someone in there. And I always believe as well, Ange was going to get like someone involved in his background team sooner rather than later that was very much from his book of contacts. You know, I think there's an importance with that. I think it's really, you know, it's so impressive what he did, right? So impressive what he did on his own last year, and we have to, you know, bow to, you know, the achievements that he created, his, you know, on his lonesome. Oh, I don't mean like that disrespectfully to the backroom team, but these guys are strangers to him last summer. You know, it's unheard of. I think now, though, you build from a position of strength, Jonathan. Not everything has to be, or certainly I hope not, a one in, one out policy at Celtic. You know, sometimes you need to strengthen. You need to strengthen areas, whether that be on the football field or whether that be off the field. We need to enhance all areas of the football club from a position of strength. So that's called proactive, Jonathan. What Celtic have done, and time again, has been a reactive football club. Ange is a proactive person. I am hoping that he is getting the message across to Celtic what is going to be necessary to go to the next level. Speaking of the next level, Jonathan, we are going to talk as well about the Champions League and what that means. Now, because so many people are talking about it in the comments, and I actually probably, let's talk about it because it's an interesting one and it will get tongues wagging. And it's not because, you know, there's any meat on the bones on this, Jonathan, but it captures the imagination when you see the King of Kings name, whether it be his name or his son's name, Jonathan, and Celtic in the same sentence. Okay, it captures the imagination. He has had his contract terminated at Spartak Moscow. Mixed bag. I think he was the third top scorer in Russia one season, then apparently it was 0 goals in his last 17 for Spartak Moscow. But the contract that was terminated was because he was leaving. He wants out of Russia, as opposed to Spartak Moscow just cutting their cloth accordingly. Do you know what I mean? But what we've now got is obviously 2 + 2 = 4. And do you know what, Jonathan? I think in the summer, football fans are allowed to do that. I can't help be arsed with the fun police going, oh, poo-poo that, you've not got a source, you've not got this. Shut up, we're all dreamers. So I am support a football club, Jonathan. I support Celtic because they make you dream. They make you dream. And I want to just join the dots and think of it. Whether it be hypothetical or not, I'm never going to be your ITK bus driver, Jonathan. But I can exclusively reveal he might not be going to Turkey. But what I will say is Jordan Larsson is available on a free, so we're going to play with it, Jonathan. You are in charge of the money at Celtic. Do you want Celtic to invest a signing-on fee and substantial wages on the son of the King of Kings, the Prince of Princes? Would he be the Prince of Princes? Would he be the Prince of Kings? The Prince of Kings? I don't know. But he's the King of Kings laddie anyway, right? And it means we get our songs back over the PA. And the first time he scores, the place goes nuts. And I think commercially, Jonathan, how many shirts do you sell with Larsson on the back? You imagine the photo. Henrik in the grey suit. Jordan in the middle, holding the new home shirt or the third shirt, whatever one it needs promoted more. Well, Larsson and his number on the back, right? And then Ange on the other side. Henrik, Jordan, Ange, just holding that shirt. You see the Larsson name. You will make that signing on fee at least in shirt sales. It goes nuts, Jonathan. It is a commercial dream. Adidas might just pick up the ball on that one as well, because they do tend to be pretty sharp with these things, Jonathan, and they might want to market the name Henrik Larsson with their merchandise on. It's all good, like it's good publicity for us, good PR, and it makes commercial sense. Is he good enough on the park? That is going to be the other argument. But I'm going to go back to how I've led on to this conversation, Jonathan. We can't afford to have a situation where Maeda's playing up top in the Champions League next season. I've made my mind up on that one. Everyone can disagree if they want. For me, Maeda's out wide. I think he's going to be dynamite for us. But up through the middle, if Chaos, who had a mixed bag of injuries last year, albeit he's my favourite player at the club, right? And he is. But his injury record's a concern. Kyogo was out for 4 months. Striker, but that area has to be strengthened. Stubbs is asking, do we need Larsson back? And I'm saying, this is not about needing. This is what I'm trying to always say. Why does someone have to go to get one in? Strengthen that area, create competition, create havoc for Ange to work out the best formation to accommodate them all. That's deep down a manager's dream, by the way. They want these hard decisions to make with their playing staff. Listen to any manager, Jonathan. They always say you can never have enough good players. Why should we not be striving, Jonathan? Whilst I think there'll be still a few more going out the door anyway, and a lot more of that wage bill freed up, I'll go back to what me and you spoke about. I want, Jonathan, quality in the window, not more quantity. Jordan Larsson commercially makes sense. He has a pedigree, I would say, at this stage of his career, not too dissimilar to what his dad's was at 25, right? Henrik Larsson wasn't getting tongues wagging when he joined Celtic, and it was did he score at a World Cup sort of thing? Kind of recognised the dreadlocks. But his record at Feyenoord was a bit patchy, shall we say. Had good moments, didn't have so many good moments. He came in and we've seen what happened there. Now, I'm not saying that the story's going to be the same, of course not. But whilst he's on a free, Jonathan, is it one Celtic should be at least asking the question on?
Well, it's an interesting one, and you've kind of summarised it quite well. From a commercial point of view, it absolutely makes sense to be going.
Thanks so much, by the way. Thank you. That was a really nice compliment. Thanks.
You don't get very many of them from me, so take it when they come along.
I must be getting better.
But yeah, I mean, when it comes to Jordan Larsson, I think there's no question about it. You know, if you're looking at merchandise and everything else that kind of comes hand in hand with the Larsson name, then you're going to be talking, there's plenty of money to be made there. You're looking at it as well, it's a free transfer. So again, you're not spending a lot of money there. So from a board point of view, and the board like to make money, Russell, let's not forget that. That's one thing that they all agree on that board, that they want to make as much money as they can and probably pocket as much for themselves, when I'm being cynical, as I am being right now. But you know, if you're looking at it, from a playing perspective, it'd be an interesting one to see if Larsson would get into the squad. It'd be interesting to see what Larsson's expectations would be, if he was to come to Celtic, because we obviously do have two top quality strikers. Granted, they both did have long periods on the sidelines last season, and I get what you're saying. You need competition, and you need to have options there, when players inevitably will get injured or be missing through suspension or whatever else could happen throughout the season. But you've got to look at it on the other hand and think, is this going to work out? Is this a gamble in some ways, with the fact that nobody really knows if Larsson is really good enough or not, unless they've been watching a lot of them. I've not seen lots of them. You can certainly argue with the fact it's a freebie that it's probably worthwhile taking the punt, as long as he was quite happy to go, as he's going to have to fight for his place. It's not going to be like his old man where he's just going to get straight in the Celtic team on name value, alone. And it's one of those ones he would have to work pretty hard, in my opinion, to get in, because I think Giakoumakis and Kyogo have both been excellent additions to the squad last season. I also look at it from Postecoglou's point of view, and I just think Postecoglou strikes me as somebody who's quite cold when it comes to doing business, in the sense that I think he would always go for the sort of player and making sure the attributes and the personality and everything else matches up. I don't think Postecoglou would do a deal just based on sentiment alone, which I think is what Celtic fans are, possibly looking at with a Jordan Larsson coming in, as there is obviously that nostalgic feel to it. And I guess
I get that.
The return question, I guess, for this would be, is this a player that you'd be interested in signing if it wasn't for the fact his father was Henrik Larsson? Because that's another point. Would people be looking at it? I guess he's done fairly well in his career, as you say, but he's still got room for improvement. You know, and as I say, I kind of feel if he was coming in, you would have to work extremely hard to get in the team, and that's kind of what makes me think he's probably going to want a good wage. And you're just wondering, is that going to be the best use of Celtic's resources for a guy who may not prove to be able to get in the team? And then on top of that, you have that sort of disappointment amongst the supporters if it doesn't really work out the way that you know we'd all want it to, of course. But then I guess on the flip side, you know, if he did come in and do well, then you could end up looking at it and being like, you know, this is like the second coming of the King of Kings if it turns out, and he, you know, hit the ground running, scores a couple of goals in the Champions League. Then all of a sudden it's all like back to the good old days of the early 2000s and the Martin O'Neill era. Ding ding, Martin O'Neill, 35 minutes. This
Hey!
but you know, I find that a difficult one, to be honest, to make a call on. I mean, my heart says yes, my head says no, probably.
Okay, I'm gonna give you some more reasons for the yes thing, and yeah, I cannot deny it. It's my heart, really my head, that is making me come up with all these suggestions that use your head to make it, you know, worthwhile. He spent, Jonathan, the past couple of months on loan in the Swedish top flight with AIK.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Swedish league is of a comparable standard to the SPFL. There is, at this stage, he has not actually turned down the potential of signing for them permanently. If that is even remotely being discussed as a potential, then the affordability question goes out the window, because we can dwarf what AIK Stockholm can in terms of wages.
Yep.
It's a fact. We can offer things that they can't as well, i.e. Champions League football, baby, which is one hell of a carrot to dangle any player these days.
Not to mention the devotion of the fans from day one. He's not going to have to worry about any sort of bedding in period. People know who he is, which come out both ways. But certainly the fans would all want that to work out even more than any other possible new signing you make over the transfer window.
Yeah. I mean, I just think for me as well, it's easy to say, oh, is he good enough? And maybe he's not looked that good. Let's be honest. We watched highlights reels of Matt O'Reilly in an MK Don shirt in League One in England and decided he was going to be the next best thing. I'm pretty sure there'll be enough highlight reels out there of Jordan Larsson at a far better level, may I add, than League One in England. No disrespect. Looking pretty good. I think he would be able to make the step to Celtic, if I'm quite confident of that. I also think the fact that he's free, Jonathan, is a win for the board a wee bit, because you could be getting the put it this way, Jonathan. See if it was put to you, I could get you the most Hollywood name to sign for Celtic. Now, for me, Larsson is Hollywood name when it comes to Celtic. This is what we're talking about, top 2 or 3 greats of all time to play for the football club, right? He's certainly in the top 5 anyway. My top 1, right? But I think with Henrik, that legacy he's left, the Larsson name, if you said to the board, think of one of the biggest names in football, Celtic's sort of history, returning a younger version, his son, and we could offer you it for free, no transfer fee. It'll be the biggest signing of the summer in Scotland, and it doesn't cost you a penny. See, no matter who it is, in fact, if you can say to a board, you will make the biggest signing of the summer, and it'll be a free transfer, they tend to nod their head at this sort of thing, Jonathan, particularly our board, who'll be looking at that £40 million in the bank and shitting themselves every time they see it. Do you know what I mean? Scared to touch it. They'll probably have it in about 14 different vaults. I think there has to be a discussion had on it. That's what I would... Be ambitious, be bold. Kieran says, Hollywood, it's biblical. I like that. I like that. That ties in with the weekend, Jonathan.
It does.
And Jordan Larsson, you need to remember, where was he born? In Glasgow, was it not?
Yeah, I certainly would have grown up there anyway. So yeah,
certainly did. You remember him running down the steps, cheering on his dad's last day and all that? He was class. He was quite gallus. And I think that we've got to ask. We've just got to ask the question. And I just think we are allowed to have these hypothetical dream conversations, and yeah, we can bring a wee bit of, well, really, he got, what was it, 26 goals in 62 games in Russia. Russian top flight, Jonathan, higher standard than the SPFL? I would say so.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, as you say, there's plenty of good arguments to be having them there, and it'll be interesting to see what the board decide to do on that part, because you know it's a big name. you know, and he could very well come in and, you know, if he hits the ground running, which is very likely, you know, we sometimes get caught up in it. You're looking at, for me, I'm kind of looking at it from Champions League, and you're kind of looking at it and thinking he might not be able to make the same sort of impact, certainly nowhere probably near the same sort of impact as his father was able to make in a Celtic jersey on that sort of stage. But, you know, if you're looking at it from a domestic standpoint, you know, Jordan Larsson would probably walk into any other team in the league's starting 11, and possibly even our own. You know, so there is that argument to be had there. I'll be intrigued, shall we say, to see if it's one that the board will look at. I do think when you're looking at the financial aspect of it, it makes absolute sense for the board to be looking at something like this, just purely because of the commercial reasons and how much money you can sell the jerseys for and everything else that kind of comes with it. And then you just know if he was to hit the ground running, and there's not very much expense coming in here from the club's point of view, and he hits the ground running as a good first season, that's only going to snowball and continue to grow from there. It would be an intriguing one though, Russell. Is it one that you really expect the board to make? I know we're obviously being hypothetical having these conversations, but if we were to ask the people that run the club and guys like Postecoglou, is this one that you think they will do when they're maybe not as romantically engaged with the whole loving as perhaps the average Joe Celtic fan?
Well, I think Celtic's board could still be doing with a hell of a lot more credit in their bank with Celtic fans' romantic side towards the football club or attitude towards the club. I think they took a hell of a lot of that away in recent years. And I think Ange Postecoglou has tried to wave a sprinkling of magic and romance back into being a Celtic fan, which everyone's enjoying. But that board still have a long, long way to climb back to get into the good books. This would be, for me, a financially beneficial move for Celtic. This is a free transfer, but it's a blockbuster name, a box office name that all the fans, they would be outside the ground for this one. Make no mistake, there is going to be fans outside the ground, Jonathan, for his unveiling. This is the King of Kings' son. It doesn't get bigger. And if you can do that without a transfer fee, you can then invest more into the wage structure. And we're going to talk about wage structures in a wee minute, Jonathan. We'll look at the League Cup sponsorship, etc. And again, that probably goes against my argument here. But I just think as an overall package, what he costs and what he brings in, what he then also, which is all I'm just caring about, what can you bring to the team, mate? Well, I'm sorry, I identified on here, so I'm not changing my opinion to suit it because it's Jordan Larsson. We needed another striker in. It was an area of the park I would strengthen. I'm not convinced Ange Postecoglou only plays one way. It frustrates me when people say that because it's almost like he's so right at everything he does. It's only this one way, and I'm like, it doesn't make a good manager who can only play one formation. You get found out. I believe Ange Postecoglou knows there's many ways to skin a cat. And I would like to see us be able to have more combinations up top. I'd like to see teams getting put to the sword. If goal difference were to be a thing in the league, Jonathan, we've got a better chance with a Chaos and Kyogo up top together than just one of them. When we're going for maybe goals in a home game against a Dundee United or some shit like that. No offence, Dundee United fans. But I think with Jordan Larsson, I think it makes commercial sense. I think it gets fans massively on side and feeling like they're getting a bit of their club back. Never forget tradition, Jonathan. Celtic, there's a romantic aspect of seeing this. Is there more pressure on him, Jonathan? This is what Teresa's worry is. It's what the Blue Baron was saying. He seems to have changed from red to blue. Hope he's all right. But the Blue Baron's saying the same. But, see my opinion, right? I actually look at it the other way. I think he starts with more goodwill. And if he doesn't score in his first 10 games, I think folk get less on his back than what they would an Ayeti, for example. And I think
good one to turn on him. So it's one of those ones you would get a much bigger grace period than if we were just to sign a random striker from somewhere else in the world. So yeah, there is definitely that argument to be had there with Larsson. It certainly seems as if a lot of people are fully on board with what you're saying in terms of bringing Larsson to the club and everything else that goes with it. There'll be a lot of pressure involved with Jordan Larsson coming in, and that'd be a test of his temperament and whether or not he can manage that situation. But I think, if it was something the club was to look at, there's no better manager for him probably than Postecoglou in terms of that.
This is it.
I'm beginning to get won over the more I think about this myself, because I'm thinking, that could be a bit of a circus, and I'm maybe putting a lot of unfair pressure on him just with who's related to. But then I kind of also think Postecoglou would be able to handle that situation with him and kind of make him feel more at ease if indeed he was feeling any nerves, because I would imagine none of us really know exactly what he's like unless we've been keeping very close tabs on him over the years. But I think he seems like he'd have a solid temperament, with the backing of Ange there behind him. And it would certainly be one that, it would excite the fans. It does get box office treatment if it was to happen. It would be splattered all over the papers, and, if it was to happen as well. And as I say, domestically, I feel like that would be like the bare minimum you'd probably get from him, is even if it didn't work out for him on the European stage, he could still certainly do a job, in the league and the cups for Celtic. And, it's a long season when you're playing so many different games. We found out injuries caught up with us a lot of the time last season, and we were kind of hanging on in the title race. People forget in December last year when we were down to the bare bones, and it was just a case of keeping ourselves within touching distance before we went on that incredible run really after Christmas, which got us over the line. And I kind of think when you had somebody like Larsson in there, then he would certainly be somebody who can improve the overall squad, and then it's up to him how far he's able to take it going forward there. He's got two good strikers to obviously learn off that are already in the building, two which can only improve them all, as we've said many a times, in different positions throughout the squad. And you're probably right as well. We're probably going to need that third striker unless Postecoglou sees Maeda as the one who goes back into the middle if anything was to happen to the other two. I would be concerned if he thinks that's the right way to go, because I would agree with you. Maeda is far more effective on the wing, where he can do more of his running, and his end product for me through the middle would need significant improvement over pre-season if that is indeed the route Ange Postecoglou was going to go down. So I'm kind of being more inclined to actually think about it. I'm beginning to get more won over about the fact that Jordan Larsson could end up being an option for Celtic, and it's certainly what I would like to think that Celtic would be looking at, particularly just given the fact it's a freebie, and the board like freebies. So it sounds to me as if that would be one the board would certainly be floating past Postecoglou, and then you'd have to put the two of them in a room together, and then if they were able to manage that, then we could be talking some serious business. Could end up being a box office bit of business from Celtic there. So,
well, Jonathan, apparently we're freezing and buffering on YouTube. I'm not even getting a warning sign at my end. Everything's been smooth for a change at my end. I was looking at the viewing numbers, and we dropped from 130 to 63, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on, man?"
How bizarre!
It's all working fine here.
Yeah, it's all working fine on our end.
Everyone's going, thank fuck, I thought my internet was fine. Sorry, guys. Now it's going bloody at my end.
No, yeah, I know it's going slightly blurry on you. Say, I can't. It'll be fine. We just hit a pothole on the old bus. That was all it was.
A pothole indeed. So, Jonathan, we'll move on to the next topic, because I'm aware that we're already at 50 minutes. We've talked about two things, 50 minutes covered, as well as the 14-minute intro. I did see the name Edward Diver in the comments. I just want to thank him for all his hard work, inviting certain people to the show. I've seen today the message seemed to get deleted pretty quickly on the old other platform, but I think he was inviting one of the contributors, Jonathan. And the message was deleted. Is it you cover? I'll not say her name, but you can work it out. But it's like not in a bad way, not like her name's like fucking Voldemort, you know what I mean? I just mean like I don't want to embarrass anyone. She who must not be named. Lovely person, and she'd be more than welcome to come along. But Edward Divers just went on it going, blah blah blah. Are you coming to the Bullfrog on the 31st? on the old State of His Faces fucking live chat. I thought that was extremely funny, and it was deleted like that, by the way. Wasn't that when folk were his team members were getting panelled by folk? But anyway, Jonathan, here's now a brilliant inroad into the Jordan Larsson conversation, because I think we're all in agreement here. A guy with 26 goals and 62 in Russia, he's going to cost big time wages. Jonathan, Scottish League Cup, Regan tells us today that we've agreed a new sponsorship deal with it. I'm not actually familiar with the story, but it was Regan that was telling us.
I think they're paying out a bit more money, I believe. That's what's going on there.
Paying a bit more money. I mean, we're celebrating, Jonathan, it now being a £2 million. £2 million overall for the tournament. 400,000 to the winner in 2022. One of our 3 major tournaments, albeit it stands third in the rankings for that. But the League Cup for me brings a hell of a unique proposition for a sponsorship deal. And this is what worries me with Scottish football. How much, Jonathan, are the SPFL board? And by that, I also mean whoever the Celtic representative is on, involved in that as well. Because at the end of the day, the League Cup is a competition only league clubs can enter. So I'm guessing it's their board that are going to be doing the sponsorship deals. Jonathan, you know how it works. I cannot believe in this day and age that one of our prestige tournaments is only 400 grand to the winner. Let's take you back, Jonathan, to the League Cup final, just the season gone by. Yeah, okay, it suits the narrative that we fucking won, right? I get that, right? And I'm not going to deny that. But I think we'll need to be honest. You look at that spectacle, that time of year, and it is standout box office material, Jonathan. But it is the pyro, the way it's dark, pretty early into the final, because it's in November. It's a standout game. Before that, you've also had the unique situation where all league clubs play a minimum of 3 games in it, Jonathan, because they're playing group stage football. So that's even more exposure for whoever the said sponsor is. The only teams that might play less than that would be Celtic, Rangers, normally Aberdeen. It won't be Aberdeen this year. It'll be like Hearts, and then you've got Ross County and Dundee Motherwell. Yeah, Ross County missed out. I mean, they could potentially only play 1 game if they go out because they enter the knockout stage. But realistically, the representation your brand is getting, Jonathan, is phenomenal. Now, football's in a very, very strange vice right now by betting companies. And a lot of people are against betting companies. A lot of people are for them. But alcohol companies, Jonathan, used to rule the roost when it came to sponsor. Not even so long ago, 12, 13 years ago, both Glasgow clubs, Rangers and Celtic, were sponsored by tenants. Celtic moved on to Magna's being the sponsor. Such was the success of it. Their name was in the back. Now, the reason this is really at the forefront of my mind, we were at Hampden Park on Sunday. Liam Gallagher, at night time, with a notoriously rowdy crowd that go to see Liam Gallagher. All demographics of ages, all been on the sauce since 10 in the morning. And it's at night time and it's rock and roll music in your face. Let's have it. This scene is set for this to go all Pete Tong because there's a few pints there, Jonathan. Instead, all I seen was maximum revenue being pulled in by whether it be the ground, who gets a cut, whether it be obviously the brewery themselves, and then obviously Liam Gallagher's PR brand get their cut. I am struggling now, Jonathan, in 2022, when we're getting such petty, pishy sponsorship deals that have been celebrated as record-breaking of £2 million split between 42 clubs for the League Cup. We now have to look at more interesting ways to make money. Is it time, Jonathan, or is it that far down the path when they were trying to make football fans, they were almost, incriminating fans for being criminals just by going to the football, let's be honest. Not so long ago, the Higgins debacle and all that. Now, we're in a situation, Jonathan, where now I just think we would never, ever even be allowed to ask Sturgeon or whoever else, and I know she's in the news right now for something else. It's going to be an interesting 18 months.
Let's not bring in politics.
Oh, my life. No, calm down. But in the live comments, I know it's going to get tasty. So just everyone remember, all are welcome in the comments, okay? no matter your political background. I don't get into that shite. But that's another thing anyway. But would Nicola Sturgeon even entertain the question, Jonathan, of alcohol in the drink? And is that because we're not putting up a strong enough argument? Because see, for me, and I love a beer, but I mean, I'm pretty well qualified, Jonathan, to talk about alcohol. I ran a pub for 6 years. I owned it. I did it for 6 years. I was the licensee, the premises license owner, the business owner, right? In that time, Jonathan, any altercation, any big event was never caused by the amount of drink I had served a customer. Never. That's not me abstaining myself from responsibility. It is a fact that had already been either half cut before they came in, and it's only took a couple of pints and they've been maybe over the edge, or they've been probably inebriated and disguised it well when they've got a pint. But supervised drinking, Jonathan, is so much better than the guy drinking the bottle of Buckfast on the way up, walking up London Road, mate, you know? That's going in riled. I'm not necessarily pissed off. I just mean that's going in revved up. I struggle, Jonathan, to see why in all grounds, and we're looking from a Celtic persuasion, but Celtic right now, 400 grand, is that really a caveat for us to be able to afford bigger wages to these sort of Jordan Larssons of the world to go into the Champions League? We are not tooled up enough from what our domestic game is providing us. Yet we seem to be bringing a hell of a lot of revenue into the country's football, you know? We do bring a lot of football in, a lot of money in, and yet we don't seem to be getting a maximum effort or push from the powers that be, whether it be SFA, SPFL, I don't give a monkeys about their to and fro, but we seem to have negotiated a pretty pishy Sky deal. Now, let's get on to that, because unfortunately with that, Jonathan, we now have another situation where revenue is there to be spent by the paying customer, Jonathan, such as a guy wanting to buy a pint at a stadium like we were on Sunday at a gig. In fact, we bought about 12 between us. Now, I appreciate in 90 minutes that can't happen, but also how bad can it get in 90 minutes if that's all you've got? And you can't take it to your seat. I've done it at Goodison Park, Jonathan. You've got to stand in the
castle as well. Yeah, you've got to stand in the concourse. Yeah,
couple of beers, sound, right? But it's extra. It's Wonga very quickly because you can overprice it a bit too. Then you get to this crazy situation where the TV deal we got, as modest as it was and as disappointing as it was, has now, Jonathan, not decided to pick up the Champions away match at Ross County, or I believe it's the 6th of August.
Yeah.
Is that our first league game away from home?
And
that is what, the smallest stadium in the ground in the league?
Yeah, must be close to it. It isn't maybe Livingston, maybe slightly smaller, but
so what are we being offered, Jonathan? Because it looks like the amazing past, sort of past thing that all the, pay for a ticket that all the clubs are doing, like a virtual ticket. That looks like that's now been removed. Our forward thinking idea being removed, Jonathan. Crazy, just crazy. So that's more revenue stopped. But do you know what? Celtic fans will watch that game, Jonathan, and think of the revenue that Ross County are missing out. Well, not missing out. They're not. Well, I don't know. They get more.
They are missing out.
So they're missing out from the people buying it from Ross County. They're missing out the Sky taking their cameras up there. And then you've got 40,000 Celtic fans investing in Scottish football to an illegal service, Jonathan, which will be IPTV, which doesn't help Celtic, doesn't help any of the clubs, but yet the money is there and it's going into a vortex, Jonathan. And this is so solvable. And yet these bastards have the audacity to be boasting about £2 million split between all 42 clubs. What did you win? What did we get for winning the league this year, Jonathan? It was 2.9 million or something?
£50 million, wasn't it? About 3 million, I think.
£3 million. I mean, come on. This is poor. 400 grand for winning the League Cup. We got 3.4 million in prize money, Jonathan. I would love to know, what Man City got last year for winning the English Premier League. 98 million, something like that. That's just for the league.
The Dwarf does just ever finish bottom of the Premiership. Never mind who ever won it. It's ridiculous. The money that's involved. And really, I'm just going to take a few of those points. I mean, if you're looking at it from the SPFL and the SFA's point of view, we have been underselling our product for so long. It's actually ridiculous. I don't know how we can possibly do such a bad job of actually selling it, because it's a good product. There's no reason for it to be getting undersold like this. We just seem to be constantly have our wee eyes kind of firmly looking at our toes and just don't want to ask for money, even though we've actually got quite a good product. You know, you've got Celtic, who play really exciting, entertaining football. The mob across the city were in a European final last season. You've got other teams that are doing well. It's an interesting football to watch, just purely because of the fact that it isn't, okay, not always the most technical football, but you can't rival Scottish football when it comes to passion. I think when it comes to the passion of the supporters, it's always going to come out near the top. And they're still, you know, when it comes to the support, one of the highest per capita in Europe. I'm pretty sure they are the highest for population for people actually going to the game. So there is a market, you know, there. And, you know, Celtic and Rangers are two worldwide brands. There's absolutely no reason for us to be underselling our product as much as we're doing it. It's actually so frustrating that we do it all the time, and then we turn around and be like, oh, this is a great deal. It's like, this would have been like a great deal maybe 30 or 40 years ago. It's just nowhere near good enough now for it. I mean, to touch upon the other points you were making as well, you're right. Obviously, Rangers and Celtic have both been sponsored by alcoholic brands in the past. I mean, you talk about Tennent's. Tennent's used to sponsor the Scottish Cup and did it for years as well. And you're looking at, you know, possible different revenue options. And I don't really understand the whole point of not being able to buy a beer when you're going to the footballs. It's all going to be under control. It's all in a controlled, you know, environment. Even if they're so adamant they don't want to put it in for potentially higher volatile games, like let's just say for the sake of argument, you're not wanting to put it in the Celtic Rangers games, it's already a highly combustible fixture as it is. So fine, let's maybe just say, right, fine, we just won't bother in that particular game, and we'll do the same in the Edinburgh Derby, etc. Game where people are obviously going to be emotionally already up to their wits' end before the game's even kicked off, and that's before they even put alcohol into their systems. So even if you take it out of them ones, you're telling me, oh, Celtic are playing, let's say, Motherwell at home, there's going to be trouble because you've had a couple of pints in the concourse area. Oh, come on.
It's just, Jonathan, it's not how it works. It's not how it works. It is. I'm telling you, I've 60 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, 6 years. I'm well versed in the impacts of alcohol, and I'm well versed. You know, I like a beer myself, in case you hadn't noticed. And I am telling you right now, Jonathan, in a supervised environment where you're buying from a bar steward, there are stewards milling about. How many pints can you cram in at half time? One. You ain't having two, mate. You can kid yourself on. You can act like Billy Big Boss in the comments and tell me, oh, to have 4 pints in the half-time break. You wouldn't, right? Right, because you missed the second half.
One before the game, probably, and one at half-time is probably...
One before the game, one at half-time. And if they were to allow it to stay open, you know, how cool would that be for half an hour? Just mingling with their fans, dancing, singing, and that be, you know, just I think that'd be amazing. This is forward, progressive thinking, Jonathan. You then got to look at the smaller aspect of football as well. Now, we grew up in Stirling, or Bridgevallon, and Stirling was our local team, Stirling Albion. Yep. Imagine them, Jonathan, being able just to get a couple of kegs, mate. A couple of 160s, $4.50 a pint, $5 a pint, and just get rid of, I don't know, 4 kegs, a $5 a pint. And they're making a grand, that's $1,000 a game, Jonathan. Do you know what that's doing for their wage structure? It's 4 players' wages probably paid. You know?
Oh, no, it's massive. And it's funny you say that because literally one of the clubs not far from Stirling, Stenhousemuir, they actually have a little, it's not obviously really supposed to be like part of the half-time thing, but they have a little bar you can go into at half-time at Stenny.
I'm going to start calling you Lee Wallace. You're a grass. You're a total grass, mate. Stenhousemuir, we apologise. We apologise, Stenhousemuir. The grass has spoken. Jonathan Wallace, fucking hell, mate.
Oh, it's hardly as if people don't know it, Russell. Come on.
I think you've just blown the whistle on them, Jonathan. If Stenhousemuir have an insolvency thing right in the near future, you look no further than you, fucking wee Wallace.
Well, I'm just saying they do have an area you can go. It's outside the ground, but it's it's an option that's there for people if you are down in that general area. Anyway, back to the original point: is if they were actually allowed to sell them, and we didn't have such a ridiculous rule in place, we wouldn't even be having these conversations about being a grass, because it's nonsensical. It should be allowed anyway to begin with, and I think it all gets blown out of proportion, and it's pretty much just another example of the government pretty much treating football fans like second-class citizens and just not thinking they're capable of drinking, and being able to control their emotions at the same time. And it's a bit patronising, to be frank and honest on that part. And I think that goes across the board on the political spectrum, that nobody's got time for it. I think the last time what alcohol was allowed in Scotland was 1980s, Russell. It was after a Celtic Rangers.
Can we still be operating on Celtic Rangers games from the 1980s as some sort of like evidence point?
No, I know, but that's what they kind of go back to, is that they seem to be thinking, well, because that one time, that Celtic Rangers game, there was a bit of a riot on the pitch, that they can't now be trusted at all, even though it's a completely different generation of football fans that are going in the game, and everything else in society has all moved on a lot since 1980. But it's almost as if, oh no, you had your chance and you blew it back then, so that's it for life now, which is just absolutely ridiculous, quite frankly. And as I say, there's no reason for it whatsoever at all. So I mean, I'm a big believer that alcohol should be allowed within the stadiums. You look down in England, how many problems do they have with it? Oh,
that's good battle, Kerry.
Comment of the day.
Kerry Ricardo, for those of you who'll be listening on Spotify tonight or tomorrow, which is brilliant, please, dog handlers, stop me and said, my dog is telling me you've got drugs. I laughed and said, you're the one with the talking dog. That is good battle, mate. I'm just going to push back a wee bit on one of the comments there that I'm saying it's shandy at the English games. Absolute not true. You get bottles of rosy wine. Well, you can. I was getting a Goodison because I could drink 2 of them, maybe not 2 pints, and it was pints of the Japanese lager at the time that Everton was sponsored by. It certainly wasn't shandy. I've got a palate for knowing these things, Jonathan, as you know. Trust me. But I also think, again, I watched that getting. I mean, me and my mate, forgive our ignorance, we got the 2 pints and we were just straight to our seat. The guy was like, "Oh, you." He was, well, not in an English accent, and I was like, "Huh?" Like, and then he heard us speak, and he goes, "Oh, you've never been to an English game?" And I went, "No." What's the story? He goes, "You need to drink them in there." He started laughing, and you know what? It was so friendly done. We just walked us down. I appreciate there are differences in terms of the passion in the English Premier League, Jonathan, and what we've fundamentally got up here, which is high intensity, high octane, football passion from a set of supporters like no other. I also think that, Jonathan, people will drink as much as they want to before the game, right?
Yeah,
they will. They will be at the level of intoxication they always choose probably to get to. And there's probably different limits for each game. There's probably the odd home game against Ross County. They go, "What's the nephew up to? I'll take him today. I'll just have a pint of Bovril." And then there's probably the Celtic Rangers game where you go, 9:30, I'm up. Bam. You know what I mean? Yeah. That happens, okay? Fundamentally speaking, this is going to be served by people behind the bar, Jonathan, or supervised with the automated systems that we were using that seem to keep queues going pretty quick. But there's someone there manning it. If you can't stand straight, he doesn't give you a pint tumbler. Mm-hmm. It's supervised drinking. But what it also does is, from our point of view, gives us another option to buy when we're at the ground. Now, when I'm there, we were talking about it. I was talking about it in a taxi. I got a taxi with a couple of great lads from Dunfermline through to Glasgow because all the buses were full. Never met them in my life. I just pitched up, any chance I could see he's going to get a taxi, I'll jump in and pay my wee share of it. And they were like, sound. And we were talking about, when you go to the games, they were saying that they barely go that off because it's for Fife as well. Do you know what I mean? It's a mission. But when you do, it's a bit of an occasion, It's an occasion, Jonathan.
Yeah.
And I just think when I'm there, I kind of want, I'm like a kid in a sweet shop. So see if I can, I'm like pies, I'm like hot dog. Yeah, I'll have a hot dog as well. Fuck it. Juice. Make it the big one, mate. It's fine. what's that, a pint over there? I'll go get a pint as well. It gives me another thing to invest in and squander some money on when I'm there. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I'm like. I think a lot of us are kids in a fairground. I don't see any reason why you cannot have pints available in Scotland. Why is Scotland treated as this crazy, like we're all lunatics or something? It's just mental. But yeah, at rugby, you can go to the rugby, and I've been at the rugby, and the gates open an hour before to let like almost a festival atmosphere happen around the ground. And Tim Billy's saying Scottish society isn't ready for alcohol in the grounds. Tim, mate, listen to what you're saying. There is alcohol in the grounds, whether it's on their body or whether it's on their possession or in their bodies already. That there is alcohol rife in every football ground that you go to in Scotland at this moment in time. We are not going to be seeing a huge turnaround because someone's had a pint of tenants at halftime. What we'll be seeing is football clubs getting valuable revenue created by themselves that right now the governing bodies are incapable of doing, but are also putting stoppers on, whether it be the government or whoever, on us actually being able to invest in our own ways to bring in much needed revenue that these officials seem incapable of or want to brag about, when really their deals are absolute pale and insignificance with the cost of football right now and how the football works right now. I don't get why we need to accept when there is an unwritten rule. The pubs are open. People at the football are pissed. Like it or not, they are. And that extra pint at half time ain't going to be the game changer. I am sorry. And I just don't think it's rocket science to say, you know what? To start enhancing our revenue, we need simpler ways to start making our clubs more money on match day. I think things like this are easy workarounds, Jonathan. Easily managed now. We experienced it on Sunday at Hampden. And I'm telling you, Liam Gallagher, I've been going to see Oasis gigs that since 2005. They are rowdy atmospheres. This was at 9 at night. And you can get pints up till 11 at night. It was fine. Yeah, the few people got huckled out. It's going to happen. A few people got turned away, Jonathan. They didn't get given plastic tumblers to go help themselves to a pint. They got turned away at the turner. That's those people's responsibility. That's what they get paid to do. This isn't fucking difficult.
Yeah, that and even that can still even happen even just now. If you go to a football match because people have had too much to drink, they can get turned away or taken out of the stadium if they're far too intoxicated anyway. It actually states that quite clearly when you buy a ticket that can happen. So as long as it's all managed properly, I don't really see what the big fuss is. And as I say, if you're seriously going to turn around and tell me, oh, there's going to be serious problems because Celtic are playing Dundee United at Celtic Park and people have had a couple of pints at half-time or whatever, then it's just...
How does that sound so crazy? Like, we have to be treated like adults. And I love this by Ryan Taylor here. He says, maybe there'd be less hassle and maybe the criminalisation of football fans, Justin, might die down if police aren't wanting to search every second Tom, Dick and Harry for a glass bottle in their jacket. Because guess what? The glass bottle situation is completely removed. You don't need to take one in. Just go get a pint at half-time if you fancy one. Problem solved.
Problem solved. And just avoid any sort of nasty situations you can potentially find sometimes when these balls end up in the pitch. It's actually more dangerous anyway because you've seen incidents over the years of these getting chucked onto pitches and whatever else. And, it's a matter of time until something like that causes an injury. Whereas if you've got the opportunity to buy in the ground, there's really no need for you to have the bottle in the first place. And you can't do any damage. Exactly.
And I also think it makes the world a bit more of an open book, Jonathan, and it gets rid of a lot of the elements of suspicion that police will have. Has he got something in that jacket? That looks like he's got his hands in his pockets, like he's probably got a half bottle of tonic in there. You're removing that. I'm not saying completely, because I think that at times there's our fucking agenda, and our fans have been victimised by that, and I totally get that. But I also think from the police's point of view, there is a higher suspicion level as they know, as well as you know, Jonathan, these supporters, I don't mean just Celtic supporters, in general, want to drink on match day. They are wanting to see, they might be trying to stash it in. See if there's a big sign saying bar beside them, Jonathan. They then know where that customer's getting his drink from. Mm-hmm. And it's going to bring in crazy crazy revenue. Red Scotland says the game makes more sense when you've got a drink in you. I appreciate, by the way, I think it was Teresa had seen comments saying she doesn't really enjoy that. That's totally fine. But we cannot sit in denial and say it's not par for the course for a large percentage of Celtic fans, Jonathan, and football fans in general, by the way, any club. And maybe it's time, Jonathan, that the clubs have to start looking at each other and saying, are we maximising our revenue? Are we getting the best sponsorship deals for our tournaments? The answer is quite frankly no. Are we getting the best TV deals? No. Are we being able to do forward-thinking moves like host our own virtual ticket for match days that aren't on the TV? No. So all this loss of revenue, how are we going to overcome this? And maybe it's time for the clubs to get together and start petitioning the governing bodies, the government themselves, and start saying, do you know what? We're going to need to start getting a wee bit more. No one's asking for free reign, but a wee bit of the lead getting slackened here, because this is silly. You know, this is silly that you're stopping everywhere we turn. The door is getting slammed shut on us making a couple of quid. And Scottish football, the term backwater, is what is going to become the norm, despite Celtic maybe being in the Champions League this year. When we're talking about Jordan Larsson, Jonathan, earning 40 grand a week, we all freak out. It's nonsense. A Champions League club should be able to pay £40,000 to players. Certainly one with a 60,000 sellout stadium every week. Of course it should. The reason it can't is because we've been let down by the surroundings that we play in. And I don't blame all the clubs for that. I blame people above. But then you look at the farce of the Cinch deal as well, and you can't even get the clubs to deal with that. It's just a joke. The whole thing is a bit of a shambles. But we do need to, we're going to need to open our minds a wee bit to different avenue revenues. The Celtic app we discussed with David Logue at length in the TNF about a month ago, and it got a lot of traction, and I was chuffed with that. But I think there's other ways we can do it. And I don't see any way why Celtic shouldn't be able, and any other club, by the way, to have a bar available for a limited time before the game, half-time, maybe even half an hour after it. I don't see the problem. Jonathan, have you got anything to add before we call it a night? It's been an hour and 17 minutes, mate.
Flown in. We did wonder if we had enough material to last us an hour. We thought we may have had to turn this into a Tuesday night forum, but it's flown in. It's flown in. The only other point I was just going to come back on, so I know you made a whole bunch of them when you were talking about the revenue, is the fact that Sky need to get their finger out. There needs to be something done there on the broadcasting side of things, because that's quite frankly farcical. It's the first away game of the season not going to be on Sky TV, and then you've also got the issues now where Celtic fans are now going to have to look at ridiculous ways to watch games that they shouldn't have to be resorting to when they've got the money and they'll happily spend it. It would be very interesting to see exactly how much money was made on those pay-per-view channels last year, because even then, that's still a big help in going to the individual clubs that were putting those on. But at the same time, you're looking at it, and if you're wanting to watch Celtic games that you aren't able to get to the stadium for, you know, if you're talking about going to watch all the Celtic games, you're going to need Sky Sports for your league games. You're going to need BT Sport for the Champions League, and then you're also going to need Premier Sports for both the cups. So that's 3 subscriptions you're paying for, and you're still not getting all the games included in that. How ridiculous does that actually sound? That sounds absolute madness when you actually put that all together and then think how much money you're spending each month.
Well, Jonathan, you're actually, it's miles away from all the games, because then you've got all the home Celtic games to work out how you're going to watch.
Correct. Yes. If you're not a season ticket holder, then absolutely, again, you've got that problem to deal with, which most Celtic fans aren't.
Can someone tell me in the comments, are Celtic offering season ticket holders still the pass to paradise on Matchday this year? Has that been snubbed as well? I am not in the know on that, but I'd be quite intrigued to know.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know whether or not that's something that can actually stay in place. Certainly, it was something that was a very welcome addition when they brought it in. I'm just wondering if that was maybe a COVID protocol, and then Sky Sports might well now have a say and say, no, we don't want that happening as the sort of broadcaster, as your broadcasting partner.
Pass is gone. So
there we go.
So there you go, Jonathan. So here's now your conundrum that you were talking about. Celtic home games, you're either there or you're square. Celtic away games that you bank on being able to see because so many thousands cannot all fit in these away grounds. Now the first game of the season is the first example of Celtic being neglected already. That's now a fourth subscription, Jonathan. It's called IPTV. And with the people like it or lump it, that is pissing valuable Scottish football fans' money into a vortex, into a Bermuda Triangle, Jonathan, that means nothing for our clubs. And all because we cannot get to grips with being a football competition in 2022 that takes itself seriously and believes in itself. And the clubs like Celtic then get humiliated and come back with their tails between their legs in the Champions League. Gonna wish you all a very good night. Remember, do hit the like button. Do hit subscribe. If you want to become a member, like so many of you have, and I'm chuffed with that, you get the wee logo at the side like Paul McFarlane, Kenny McArdle, and then it turns blue, Jonathan, after you paid your second month subscription. It's totally optional. We're never going to charge for our content, but I do really appreciate it. Obviously, we will be going 7 days a week, Jonathan, the new season. We'll be working harder than some of your TV companies will to bring you Celtic content. Unfortunately, it just won't be the games. You can still watch me maybe reacting to some of the games live.
Maybe that's something we can look at going forward. Set up our own channel, Russell. That's going to be the long-term goal of the bus. We'll get some dodgy streaming on phones. We'll see if we've got any passengers that are season ticket holders I want to help out. We're going to become the cameramen for the bus.
It sounds good, mate. It sounds good. Also, Jonathan, as you know, the big news is we are live. And everyone now knows that we are live. We are going to be live, Jonathan, on the 31st of July. We're coming to Motherwell. Big thank you to Dell, who has been instrumental in organising this. We're going to be live music, post-match pish. There's going to be a double doom quiz with different contestants. There's going to be a wee Q&A. I've got one of you guys going to be hosting it. There's going to be walk-on music for each contributor, Jonathan. I've bought a fog machine today, ladies and gentlemen. We are going all out. It'll be great fun. We're going to be in the Bullfrog on the 31st of July, Flag Day, as it's known. Free entry and all that. We'll sound as fuck. Trust me. The only person that will cost money is me. I don't even mind. I just can't wait to see you all and thank you all for all the support. And it's only been 6 months, Jonathan. It's funny to think, the first 2 of those 6 months, I spent half the week playing Championship Manager live. Now we've no time for any of those streams anymore. Bloody pity. That was my favourite ones.
We went and we've upgraded, I think.
I think.
You've had to shelf your childhood, but it's been for the greater good, hasn't it, really?
You're right, Jonathan. My need is lesser than the bus passengers. Listen, every single one in the comments, what a night that is, what helps the shows as well. So a massive thanks to all of you. Jonathan Boyce, you are a legend. Not as big a legend as me, though. Younger girl. Thanks again for watching the BOYCE'S Bus. Cheers.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.